Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. Why aren't you doing a contempt motion if somebody's violating a court order? Why don't you do contempt? Why would you tolerate somebody violating a court order? Contempt is pretty much the only recourse you have if somebody violates a court order. You can't really say, oh, I want to modify my parenting plan because the person's violating it. First, you got to get them in a violation that the court believes that. Just like you can't go to court and say, hey, this guy, think about a prosecutor. A lot of times if somebody's really dangerous to society, let's say they got caught jacking cars, and they're like, the prosecutor says, this guy has assaulted 5 different people. He assaulted 2 elderly people. He beat up a kid who's 14. He's dangerous to society. We need to stop. We need to not give him any bail or let him out. So prosecutor puts you to bail, and he'll bring that against him. Well, he can't just say that just to say that. He's going to have a history of convictions on the guy to be able to try and win the court over in that type of situation. So if you say, hey, the mom's withholding the kids and she's been doing it for several months, and you never tried a contempt motion, the issue is whether she actually did it in contempt or did it in bad faith. So in my opinion, people should go for contempt. Contempt is the easiest motion to do in most states all by yourself anyway without an attorney. And there's attorneys out there who are afraid to do contempt motions, which is insane. I got my daughter's mother found in contempt on my first try. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. Take a look at my actual winning court order. Look at my flow page. If you're on TikTok, you can go to my YouTube channel and look under any YouTube video for my flow page link. I'll have as soon as I get over 1,000 followers on TikTok, I'll have that up. I'll have that link up. You have to take a couple steps. Let's take a look at my flow page real quick. Okay, so let's find my flow page by going through my Instagram. If you go here, and then it says all links in one place. Okay, so here's my flow page. Sorry about the reflection and stuff. Let me see if I can do it like that. Okay, there we go. That's a little better. Okay, my flow page. James, this is my phone number. Get a consult. One touch, call, text, email. People are like, how do I get a hold of you? Well, my social media options. Where's your YouTube channel? My YouTube link is on everything too. Explanation of this flow page in case you don't know how to navigate this stuff. Here's a long explanation. See, if you got enough time, if you actually care about your kids, you'll have time to look at some free resources and free help. And then if you look at free resources and free help, you'll have all the information you could possibly need. And if you get a consult with me, you'll get laser-like precision on how to attack your case. My online store. A video on the 3 most important things of my online store. Free documents, free stuff for you to check out. Consultation rates. I'll pause there for those of you who want to know. Donate and pay, okay. Interview with Pearl, that's not up anymore. She took it down. Proof, James won. There's my winning custody order. Here's a couple appeals wins, a transcript where a judge says I should go to law school because of my writing. Here's another win. At this point, I had an attorney when I went back to court a few years later because I was scared to go to trial. And now I know I can do anything without an attorney, including trials, because I've helped people do it. But even when I had an attorney, the attorney said James wrote the paperwork. I told my attorney what to do, and I wrote the paperwork. He was just a mouthpiece, and I actually didn't even need him. Anyway, contempt order. Look at that. Here's my winning order. I show you an actual case number in an actual courthouse. You can even go online and look for this and find it in King County's website. So Sedaris W. Wright was found in contempt on this day, and this is a certified copy, right after a few months after I got my court order in 2001. That's 01 September 12th. Day after September 11th, we were in court pretending like the world didn't just get rocked. Okay? So I show you, why is this not moving? Okay. The makeup days that I got, Sedaris Wright is in contempt. She acted in bad faith. And then she is in contempt. Here's the reasons why I missed this time, or it's vice versa. And then I got additional residential time. And then I got a sanction of $250 awarded to me, which is also at the beginning in the judgment. Showed me $250. Her attorney, they didn't name her attorney, Mark Libas. So there you go. I show you what I'm talking about. So your lawyer or your friends or other people are saying, don't do contempt. That's attacking the mother for committing a violation of your rights. Who are you going to believe? I just showed you that I won contempt on my very first try without an attorney. I've said this before in other videos. There's this father's rights attorney in Los Angeles. He did a post and he said, you shouldn't do contempt. You never get anything back. You know, only do contempt when it's a monetary or money-oriented thing. Well, who does money-oriented contempts? The prosecutors and the mothers when you don't pay child support. Child support contempt is done regularly all the time. You have a whole calendar for child support compliance at every courthouse, it seems like. How often do you think people have their kids withheld from them? All the time. So why aren't people doing contempt on parenting plans and visitation orders as much as child support? On top of that, how much more important is love of the other parent than money? And people jump on contempt on child support all the time. You know, case law of every state, if you Google your state and put Supreme Court, let's say you're in Texas, and you type in Texas Supreme Court contempt elements, it'll say the elements of contempt, or I'm sorry, the purpose of contempt. Purpose of contempt, Texas Supreme Court, Massachusetts Supreme Court, Washington Supreme Court. That's one of those issues that's been around so long, there's got to be a Supreme Court case in every state. It'll usually say the purpose of contempt is the court's compliance. The court has the power to enforce their own orders. When you go to court, and this is an argument I would make to court, if somebody stands up in the middle of court and interrupts court, you will say sit down and you'll warn them of holding them in contempt of court. If they do it again, you will not tolerate it. You definitely won't tolerate it if they do it a third time. You either kick them out or hold them in contempt, or if they smart off in the courtroom or they're being rebellious. You would not tolerate people not following your orders. How come you tolerate the mother withholding the children? This is the greatest life need of the children, and children, their best interest is your number one priority. You granted this court order because you're supposed to do what's in the best interest of the child. So it's assumed that this is the best interest of the child, and she's violating the best interest of the child that you ordered. Don't you care? You have to care because your number one priority is the welfare of the children, and she's depriving the children of a basic life need and traumatizing them, which is basically a form of child abuse. We have all kinds of laws about domestic violence, coercive control, abuse of the process, all these intangible things that are not actual violence. Withholding a parent from a child is one of those intangible, non-violent things that's actually abusive toward the kids. When we had the crisis at the border with kids in cages, there was 1,000 kids in 1 year. They made it seem like it was 1 million of them. But illegal aliens crossing the border when Obama announced clearly, don't bring your children to the border. They do it anyway to drop their kids off, to make anchor babies and all this other stuff. They know they're going to get separated from their kids. And then we raised hell because of the horrific situation of kids being separated from their parents. Now that had gone on for like 40 or 50 years at the border. They only cared at one period of time for political reasons. But if you're outraged about illegal immigrants that have been separated from their kids, how come you're not outraged about the court separating millions of kids all day long and everybody's crying out about broken families? Because you guys don't really care. You're a bunch of lawyers, rich, snot-nosed brats who grew up with a golden spoon. Then you become a judge and you never had baby mama drama. You think we're a bunch of subhuman peasants, and then you just toss the kids around like it's no big deal, and all you really care to enforce is money. But if you actually cared about the kids, and we know that money, that love is way more important than money. You can't even put a number on it. It's not 10 times more important, 100 or a billion. It's astronomical. No kid is saying on their deathbed, man, I wish I had a relationship with my dad. Or saying, man, I wish my dad paid my mom more money. They're saying, I wish I had a relationship with my dad. Contempt is the only remedy to hold somebody accountable. And when you start holding people in contempt, I had a guy who did a contempt motion. The mom called and said, please don't do it, please don't do it. She slammed the door on his face, on a cop's face, and said, dude, don't be a pussy. Follow through with this stuff. And guess what? He followed through. He was going to be a simp little pussy and not follow through. Guess what? She never did it after that again. Followed up in a couple years later. Do contempt. Don't be a pussy-ass bitch. Grow some balls.